Oh, hello there. Let me just get my spectacles out. Can't really see this. Ah, there you go. Let's read. Ah, the Muirite. Didn't my dad go to this school? Yes. I hear it's a very good school and it's turning 200. Oh, he's having his reunion tonight. I hope all you good old Muir boys have a really good time tonight.
So welcome to all of you. I think it's really exciting, and I'm sure all of you would have come to South Africa if you could have for your special reunion. But now that we are also on a virtual platform, I suppose it's even easier to dial in from your home, from your office. Thank you very much for being part of this special Old Muirite Reunion function. Tonight we are celebrating with 9 reunion classes. We have the 10-year class, the 20-year class, the 25-year class, the 30-year class, the 35-year class, 40-year class, 50-year class, 55-year class, and the 60-year class, celebrating their special reunion. A special thank you to all of you for dialing in and being part of the special occasion. I'd like to start by doing something that we do at every OMU function on an annual basis, and that's to read out the obituary, the list of old boys who have passed away since we've last met 1 year ago in March 2020. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read out the list. We don't have the years of all the gents, but I'm going to read out the list, and we'll have just a few moments of silence for these old boys who have passed on since our last meeting a year ago. Vic Boertes, 1951. Gavin Rothman, 1970. Bruce Bosman. Luvoyo Nkadi. Francois Hubert. Owen Morgan. Reg Murray. Ethel McEwen. George Harrington. Sean Petrus, 1999. Gottfried Potgieter, 1954. Denzel Lester, 1955. Colin Witter, 1979. Ben Haynes. Clive Lurie. Etienne Gous. Ian Milton. John Glastonbury. Michael Fly. Mark Dubell. Tembisile Lubando. Kayaletu Mahira, and Chad O'Connor. Those are the names of the old boys who have passed away since last year. And I do ask that if any old boys are ever in contact with any families of old boys who pass away, please do pass those names on to our secretary, Mark Bucker, who will collate those on an annual basis. Okay, we have a special message to share from the head boy of 2021, and I'm going to ask my colleague Dave if he can please play that video now of the message from this year's Muir College Boys High School head boy.
Good day to the old boys and present Muirites. My name is Nsigam Zalazala and I'm the head boy of the class of 2021. Although these are not ideal conditions that we are in, I urge you to stay strong and positive during these times, and let us have faith that the year 2021 will be the best year yet. Founders is coming up and will be shown on all digital platforms. I urge you to tune in what will be the first of its kind. Thank you.
So next up on our program is a message from the school headmaster, Robin Stevenson, who has pre-recorded a message. Robin had surgery just 2 weeks ago, so didn't want to take a chance to be with us here in person. And we wish Robin well in his recovery, but he has sent us a message to be played at this reunion function, and we're going to try and see if we can get the volume to play for the headmaster's message.
Good afternoon and welcome to old boys and friends of Muir College across the country and indeed across the world. A special word of welcome to our class groups that would have come to the school this year for special reunions. I really hope that we'll see you next year at our 200-year celebrations. Founders is indeed a time for us to reflect on our history. Allow me to mention a few highlights. In 1822, James Rose Innes established the English Free School, which became the government school. In 1873, the government school amalgamated with the proprietary school. In 1904, Dr. Muir opened the red brick building behind me here, and the school became known as Muir College. In 1962, the school split in three parts: the preparatory school, the primary school, and the high school. In 1987, the school moved to its present site at Vaines Estate. In 1981, the school opened its doors for all races. In 1994, the primary school and the senior school amalgamated. A rich history indeed. But Founders is also a time for us to remember sacrifices made. We recall old Muirites who died during wars. We also remember fine teachers and headmasters. And lastly, we acknowledge the role played by the founders of our school. I think at this stage it's also important for us to acknowledge that we don't have to agree with everything that happened in the past. For example, you may or may not agree with the fact that the school was split in three parts in 1962. But we do acknowledge that people in the past built a place of learning here, a fine place of learning, and that many have benefited. And now, as we stand at the cusp of 2022 and 200 years of existence, we have the opportunity of building on the foundation that has been laid. We remember the words of the British philosopher Herbert Spencer, who said, "The great aim of education is not knowledge, but action." And now is our time of action. With that, I wish you a happy Founders. And lastly, it is my pleasure to propose a toast to the strongest ally that Muir College has, and that is the old Muirite Union. So I drink a toast to the OMU. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next year. Nec pluribus impar.
Yeah, I think what Robin was going to do at the end there was to toast the old Muirite Union. So now if I can ask you to all raise your glasses and let's toast the old Muirite Union. And you're welcome to put your speakers on for a second.
Cheers. Cheers, boys. Cheers. 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 Cheers.
And then if I can at the same time just respond and say thank you to the school for all their support. And if I can propose that we also drink a toast to Muir College and to the headmaster. To Muir College.
To Muir College. To Muir College. Muir College. Muir College. Muir College. Muir College. Muir College.
Okay, if I can ask you just to mute your microphones again. And we're now going to invite the different reunion classes. We've asked one person from each class to say a few words and then to propose a toast to their class. So have your drinks ready. I am the first one who's been asked, just on behalf of the 10-year class, the class of 2011, to say a few words. So what happened in 2011? New Zealand won the Webb Ellis Trophy. Osama bin Laden was caught. Prince William and Catherine got married. The singer Adele rose to fame. And those of you who are perhaps older than the 10-year class won't know about the singer called Adele. And closer to home, the Muir College class of 2011 marched on through matric and started the next phase of their lives. So I'd like you to please turn on your microphones again, and we drink a toast to the class of 2011 celebrating their 10-year reunion.
Oh, 2011.
11.
I was quite quickly. We've given each class a maximum of 4 minutes. So the people who are speaking on behalf of your classes, please time yourself and aim for 4 minutes at the most. And we now invite Stephen Everett, the 20-year reunion class, 2001, the class of 2001, to say a few words about the 20-year class. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Andrew. There's going to be no cheersing from me. It's a cup of coffee. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon here in Toronto. But a wonderful opportunity this, and really good to see some familiar faces. Just on behalf of our class, a lot of us are still friends and still connect with each other, and it's a real privilege to get to share on behalf of the class. One of the key things that I think Muir's always been known for, and our class was known for, is we punched above our weight, and we see that throughout our lives as we've grown up. I think we're still the youngsters, and I'm going to hold on to that. 20 years, we're still young in this group, and but yeah, we've had tremendous success out of our class. Curry Cup rugby players, doctors, professors, journalists, entrepreneurs, scientists, accountants, you name it. It's just testament to the amazing foundation that we had at Muir College, and I want to make a few specific mentions that really came out strongly with our class. I'm going to start off with Mr. Francis, amazing teacher, feared yet respected. Mr. Clutie, brilliant and hilarious. Mr. Stevens with his pies and coke. Mrs. Britta, Miss Lingwood, the late Miss Lingwood, and also make a special mention of the late Barnards, Mr. and Mrs. Barnard, who had a real, huge impact on all of us, especially in junior school. And just an encouragement for the boys that are still at the school. It's an amazing place. Make every effort to use the academic, cultural, and sporting facilities, and have fun. We had a lot of fun. I can think of a few incidents like Guguletu in our class killing a live puff adder, an enormous live puff adder, by stepping on its head and killing it on an operation. He was, I think, the pitch that he ran down the hill with has never been matched before, even by a small girl. The birthday jacks that we so frequently enjoyed were always a highlight. Dry shaving for hair inspection, many such things. So we had a really amazing time, and we certainly hope that we can join next year in person. I know that there's a lot of us who are going to want to, get out on the cricket field, and I don't know if there's anyone that can still play rugby, but we'll try. And we'd love to join you next year. So, on behalf of our class, just to thank you. And I've got a cup of coffee here, but if you want to toast something else to the class of 2001.
Right, put your microphones on, gents, and your videos on. Let's toast the class of 2001, celebrating their 20-year reunion.
2001.
Yes, gents. Cheers, boys.
It sounds like organized chaos when we do that, but that's great. Thank you, Stephen, also for joining us from Canada. I see the old Muirite Union representative for Canada, Paul Frew, is on our meeting here as well. And if you guys haven't connected yet, we have an OMU rep who from time to time will connect with the guys there. So please make the connection.
Awesome, will do. Thank you.
Reach out, yeah.
I reckon there's so many guys in Canada, you guys can charter an airplane for next year to come to the 200-year celebrations.
Awesome. We're working on it.
Good one. Welcome. Thanks, Paul. And thanks, Steve. All right, we now move on to the class of 1996, celebrating their 25th reunion on the virtual platform today. And we have Regan Schreiber. Regan is going to say a few words on behalf of the class of 1996.
Thank you very much. Seniors, the last one was only 3 minutes. I'm going to claim his minute, if that's okay. So headmaster, president of the OMU, Muir College staff, fellow Muirites, and especially to you, the class of 1996, good evening and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I must apologize before I begin to our music teachers, Mr. Gavin Rudman and Mrs. Cheryl Vermark, and of course our Springbok chorister, Mandla Busakwe. He said, son, you are a Muir boy, and that's the way to stay. Hey, hey, happy to be a Muir boy until your dying day. I was going to sing the whole song, but my brother assured me that none of you wanted to hear the full rendition of that song, although I guarantee you'll be singing it when you get into bed tonight. Happy is how I describe my time at Muir. For many of us, that's all we ask of our families and our children now. Happiness, Muir College certainly delivered in the bucket load. One often looks back on life with either rose-tinted glasses or over-critically. For example, now living in the UK, I long for the warmth of Utenay.
Done something now, it's on.
And this is an ad break.
We've been talking, they've all been talking.
Dennis, you're an ad break.
McCullen, it's on. Chip's on, don't even recognise them.
Dennis, you need to mute.
I muted him for himself.
Oh, thank you. I long for that warmth of Utenay, but I've clearly forgotten how hot those walks home were along the railway track with my blazer on, daring not to take my blazer off in fear there was a prefect hiding in the bush.
Sound just gone. I think Regan's muted himself.
Regan, you've muted yourself. You're on mute. You're talking to yourself. Regan?
Hello.
Yeah.
How far I got?
We lost you after I am a Muir boy.
Oh, out of tune singing.
No, you were on the railway tracks. You were on the railway tracks.
Railway tracks. Just before the prefect. Railway tracks.
So I was on the railway tracks and you'd be too scared to take your blazer off in case a prefect would jump out and shout order mark, or the sweat that would cascade down my back and armpits while I sat in assembly and it was only 7:15 in the morning. Or I'm too critical of the middle path hairbows, the baggy jeans, the polo necks, or desperately trying to sound like a Milani. When I think of Muir, I find myself swelling up with pride for the good times we had in the classroom, on the bunny field, the Ellis field, the public pool, the bus journeys, or just chin wagging at the arches overlooking the Hague. As a teacher now, I show prospective parents around, and I have to remind them to look past the incredible facilities and the flashy science blocks. And at Muir, our science facilities were impeccably maintained by the formidable Mrs. Roby. Or, instead of our immaculately cut lawns here, the hard rock rugby fields where concussion was something that only the girls' schools experienced, like Westring and Alex. But I tell them to look at the staff and to look at the children and get a real sense of the school soul. At Muir, we had all the bells and whistles, but what made it incredible was the people, the legends, like Mrs. Hartley, Mrs. Barnard, and Mrs. Bayman, who nurtured and loved us like their own. To the old-fashioned schoolmasters, like Mr. Barnard, Mr. Lateghan, and Mr. Willie Watson, who kept us walking the straight and narrow, albeit with a plank, a stick, or a whistle strap. And then to the senior school staff, who willingly took over the baton to help us along our journey. Mrs. Buerter, who would warn us of early ripe, early rotten. Or Mrs. Esmond, yet another warning. Wat die hart van volles loop die mond van oor. And both warning us never to watch a movie with our girlfriends at 2 o'clock in the morning under a blanket. And then there were the main manner, what count? Major Tom Pereira, come on, give me another one. And Godfrey Stresso and Alan Whitehead. Not to mention teacher Lakazi Walters, who helped us to vula festile in those warm summer months. Peter Stevens, Bun Hopley, Rowan Clitty, Ernie Trenry, and of course Dave Francis, who kept the school in check. Can I just thank somebody before I go then? Just to thank the invaluable support staff of the school that kept the things together and greased the mighty Muir machine. The ladies, Baby Ferreira, Sandy Grumbeck, the legendary Mrs. Shirley Dillon, the ever helpful and ever smiling Hilda, with her noisy tea trolley, and of course the Sir Thomas Muir mothers, Trudy, Beauty, Gladys, Sophia, and Miriam. We tip our quagga caps and straw bashes to you all. Thank you for making Muir what it was then and what it remains today. I've got plenty more. I guess I'm going to have my own channel for this. I think 25 only happens once every 25 years. But can I just, then my farewell then is, before we toast our year, can I just say our prayers and thoughts go out with our fallen brothers, James Wilmot, who without a doubt was the kindest boy in our year, to Liam Brighton with his wickedly sense of humor, Craig Bully Hechter, and Stephen Potgieter, the Maverick on two wheels. They'll all be sorely missed. To the class of 96, cheers and God bless, and I hope to give you the full fat version of my speech on another channel. Cheers to 96.
Perfect.
Cheers.
Unmute yourself, then. Your cameras on.
Cheers.
Regan, thank you very much. No need to start your own channel. Rather, you and the class meet next year in Uitenhage to tell the stories around the table. How's that?
We'll be there.
Tickets booked.
Perfect, perfect. And Regan, can I ask where you situated? Where are you based?
I'm in the UK in Somerset.
Okay, perfect. And you're wearing your Muir blazer, I see.
I have indeed. Still fits. It helps that my father bought it 3 sizes too big.
Well done. We now move on to the 30-year reunion class, 3-0, the class of 1991. And a few words are going to be shared by Glenn Elfrink. Glenn, are you with us this evening?
I am indeed, Andrew. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. And because I've only got 4 minutes, I'll rush and maybe breathe once or twice. So, question to the class of 1991. Ever planned something that is 11,000 days away? I'm guessing not. We've been out 10,950 days now. So let that sink in and think about that. I don't think we can comprehend. So just a funny story as to how about you came to hear my droning here. Ray Mayes and the head boy had seemingly taken a unilateral decision to delegate some responsibilities. He asked Nico Claassen, head of the hostel, to organize for 30 years. Not sure how this came about, but when chatting to Vernon Slack, who asked about founders, Ray mentioned Nico was helping. At the time he said, and I quote, "Haven't seen much. Hashtag just saying, Nico." Okay, fair enough. Who am I to argue? I follow with a message to Nico, which was happening, what was happening for the 30th. And so it is, as it came closer to the day, a few emails later, Nico, in true border style, I need to put that dig in there, has a dig and a whinge about how the deputy head boy, whoever he was, has avoided much of the organizing and that said deputy should be involved. That's how it came to be that I'm now sitting here talking to you. So the head boy delegated, the border whinged, and the next in line innocent gets nailed. Thanks, Nico and Raya. Yeah, I think I'm the wrong guy for this. Not nearly enough shenanigans in my memory banks, except for potentially telling Raya O'Brien to tuck his shirt in constantly, because I don't think it was ever tucked in. Now on to more serious matters, maybe a little bit, more morbid, but I think it's important to do this. Our class is at the age when our previous aura invincibility is being replaced by the realization that we are, after all, mortal. And I'd like to take this time to specifically recognize some of our friends who've passed since our 25-year reunion. Stephen Otter in December 2016. Attacked in his home, but I think most importantly was the heartwarming reports about Stephen from those close to him in his last years in Cape Town, was that they remember him as a colorful character with eccentric leanings. As a journalist, one story shared how he would go to work barefoot. And this is exactly who he was at school. So on that note, rest easy, Stephen. Brian Luntman in August 2019, almost everyone's friend at school. Always a surfer, always a farmer. Brian lived to be outside in the sun. With a heart larger than life, he contributed to just about everything, good and bad, at Muir College. And never bad, but, mischievous. For a long time, one of my best school friends, he once said to me, "Glenn, you've got this school by the balls. Happy hunting in the great beyond, old friend." Jean Blichnout, February 2020, forever remembered as Blickies, passed away after what was clearly a valiant battle with a big C. His fundraiser page, started by those close to him in the USA, stated he loved all his classmates at Muir College in South Africa. I was closer to Blickies at school than most suspected, largely due to a shared and fringe interest in heavy metal. Rock on in peace, Blickies. In closing, there's a part of me that is immeasurably and truly sad that we can't do this in person, honestly. I always was a bit of a loner in some respects with a misanthropic twist, but the amount of fun and just sheer joy experienced at our 25-year reunion caught me unawares. It's funny, you have this dated perception of old classmates, and holy crap, how wrong that it is most of the time. We saw warm emails from John Hingst, Alan Cresswell, Ray O'Brien, Paul Armitage, folks all over the globe. Chris Davidge, who's probably just down the road from the school. My pride at being a Muirite grows with each old boy intervention, and thanks for that, because it's you guys, not me. If only I knew then what I know now. So at this time, if I may, I'd like to raise the toast to the class of 91 and all those good lads out there, wherever you are. Cheers. Keep well, stay safe. See you all next year for Bloody Sure.
Yeah.
Cheers. You want to
Cheers, class of 91.
Thanks, bud.
Cheers, Glenn. Class of 91.
It'll take the whole afternoon to get you on.
Thank you very much, Glenn, for sharing. I think you must be probably still the fastest Muirite over 100 meters ever to have gone through the school.
Downhill now.
Downhill now. I recall Glenn was a few years younger than me, but when watching rugby and Glenn played on the wing, it was just get the ball to the wing, just pass the ball to the wing, do nothing else. So that's what I remember of you, Glenn. Before we continue, I see we've got our two old Muirite Union Gauteng representatives with us here from the Joburg, Pretoria area. I see Mati Idiot Lomas and I see Asanda Singata. Now, Asanda, if we ask Mati to say a few words, he will talk the whole evening, like know. But Asanda, good to see you. I see you wearing your Muir rugby jersey. What's the story behind that in 30 seconds?
All right, quickly, man. You know what is a Muirite? It's something that you never forget. It's a school that teaches one discipline and teaches camaraderie. And also... okay. Oh, okay, cool. I thought someone else was chatting there. For me, Fathers is an important event for every Muirite. It's something that we have to support throughout our lives and also just be part of. It's just the camaraderie and us getting together as all boys and just catching up. It's something that we don't do often, but it helps us to get together and ensure that we keep in contact. Thank you.
Thank you, Asanda. That was unannounced and unprepared. And Asanda is one of our Gauteng reps. So anybody who's from the Joburg, Pretoria area, there's your man to contact to stay in touch with other old Muirites. Right, we're moving on now to the class of 1986, celebrating their 35th reunion. And I want to invite Frank Mcfarlane, head boy of 1986, to say a few words on behalf of the class. Thank you, Frank. If you want to unmute yourself.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Good. Good evening, Andrew. And I think a word to you and your team. You've done a marvelous job. I know that you're putting in a lot of hours, and we appreciate it. And we're all benefiting from your hard work. And of course, now with Wendy on board as well, we wish you all the best, and we look forward to next year. So, well done, Andrew. Certainly a privilege to be with you all tonight. And it is an opportunity to do a little bit of soul searching, I suppose. It did strike me that in our school song, we talk about the school with the glorious memories. And already this evening, we're hearing some of those memories, which are special. I think memories, some of which will be intensely personal, but many of them are shared memories. And in fact, they shared across generations. And so it's really nice when we listen to chaps who matriculated in advance ahead of us. And I'm sure when we listen to some of the others later, we'll be able to share, and it's going to be lekker. I did think as well that most of the memories we're talking about were created when we had thicker hair and thinner waists. So we're changing, but the memories are surprisingly vivid for such a long time ago. So what to share in 4 minutes, and I think we're probably down to 3. I was told I shouldn't drone on about us being the last matrics in the old red brick building. I shouldn't remind you that I think we're the last year where the first team beat Grey. All of those things I was told to ignore by my family, and so I think I should get down to something a little bit different. I got thinking about how we remembered or celebrated Founders Day when we were at school, 1986, and I think it mimicked a fairly long phase in the Muir tradition. Friday was assembly held outdoors in the quad on the grass, the hallowed lawn, which we weren't allowed to step on for the entire year. And then we spent a few hours on it, sitting under the trees in the shade. And there were speeches and wreath laying, rather like our assembly, the current one, the modern founders. But the real difference, I think, for our generations was what happened on Friday afternoon. And it was the retreat ceremony. And we were all en masse up at the top fields. Unlike the new school campus, the fields were 500 meters up the road. And we all went up to the field to watch the gym display put on by the gym club under the watchful eyes of the young gym teacher, PT teacher, Mr. Bun Hopley. And the chaps put on these displays. They would build human pyramids, jump through fiery hoops, put on all sorts of quite exciting things to watch. I can remember being quite impressed. But after that, the real event, the highlight was the retreat ceremony. And we had a cadet band. They would come on to the field under, in our year, under Dean Mati's brother, Dean Lomas's, was the drum major, and they marched on, and all the senior boys were part of the cadet detachment, and we marched on behind them. The crowd, as I remember, it was always packed. We had the stands, the old grandstand was full, the open stands on the other side, the lower side, and then right around the field, there'd be people watching. And that was an absolutely memorable time where there was this real camaraderie and a wonderful event highlighted by the boys' participation. To get there, though, I remember months and months of Wednesdays training and marching and up and down and all over, normally being shouted at by Tom Ferreira and Farmer Whitehead and all the other heads. And it took a lot of effort to get there. It was memorable, but there was a lot of hard work. After the retreat ceremony, the next day was, of course, cricket and all the various activities, many of which are repeated to this day. Old boys playing the chaps currently at school. But yeah, I think that was something that I felt was very special and different, possibly to the times we live in now. I concur with everything that's been said already about the wonderful memories and times we spent. We all had, seems like everybody had a nickname. I'm not sure whether the boys now all have nicknames, but we had lists of nicknames, and the boys normally got those from some sort of physical feature. They were seldom complimentary. It was all either that or it was something that embarrassed them or something they did that was stupid. So we had guys, we had Killer, Skeg, Doug, Bully, Blanky, Skilly, Footloose, Squirt, Poon, Buffhead, Spider. The list continues. And these chaps, I'm quite sure, dropped their names now. But that was a very special part of being at school. All the nicknames we gave each other. We were fortunate, I think, also to have a few teachers who stuck in our minds, and many of them had nicknames, and probably Bounce King was the one that's familiar with many boys from the 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. And I think he struck terror in our hearts, either in his class, where he was the maths master. Yeah, I remember him having a poster at the back of the class which said, "Time passes, will you?" And I think most of us feared that we wouldn't. He was well known for bouncing or moving from side to side, and he'd stand in our little quad where we had to line up before assemblies, before we went into the small hall, and he would threaten people with the stick. And it wasn't an idle threat. He would haul that out and introduce punishment quite liberally. But those are just a very few sort of things I thought of that were particular to a certain age, let's say, that's a little different to what. But our memories are good. We've got a wonderful foundation. We have boys from our year and many years, I'm sure, but throughout the continents of the world, literally. Not only are they spread throughout South Africa, but everywhere. I think other than the Antarctic, we've got representatives everywhere. It's wonderful to be part of a family and to be such a good bond, I think, among us all.
Thank
So
you.
if I could propose a toast to the class of 86 and certainly to all the old boys, especially those watching and listening. Class of 86.
And mute yourself, gents, to the class of 1986.
86.
86.
Brother Dean.
Yes.
86.
I must congratulate you, Frank, you know, to have been at Muir for the 3rd best year ever is incredible, because it went from 1986. 1987 was the 2nd best class ever at Muir, and in 1988, just a year after, has been announced as the best class ever at Muir.
That's a hometown decision. I think we're going to have to take that to a vote.
What's that finger there, Neil? Okay. Now, I quite enjoy throwing people on the spot, and I see we have Mr. Buddy Beckett, who's our OMU rep in Scotland. Buddy, why don't you share with us in 20 seconds where you are, what you're doing, and what you miss about South Africa? 20 seconds.
Okay, what I missed about South Africa won't be 20 seconds worth, so we'll leave that alone, and I might just get emotional now. I'm still at work, unfortunately. It's 10 to 6. I find myself based in Stirling, which is basically the central part of Scotland. So yeah, been here for about 5 years, but yeah, missing all you buggers back home. So yeah, not too bad.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you for joining us. Middle of the afternoon in Scotland. So welcome, buddy. Thank you. We're now moving on to the 40-year reunion class. 40 years out of school. Saki Ellis is going to speak on behalf of the class of 1981. 1981. Over to you.
Muted?
Yes.
Am I unmuted there?
Yes, we can hear you.
A hearty welcome and good evening to all old Muirites, especially to that special class of 1981. I have to second Regan Schreiber in that I would need a special channel to relay 1% of our years together. But we'll pass that on. And in fairness to my fellow colleagues, I've made a tentative decision not to mention names this evening. Gentlemen of this class of 1981, I must bring to everyone's attention that a large number of that class have excelled in the following fields: sports, aviation, medical, scientific, finance, commerce, but to name a few. And I wish to bring a special mention to a very highly successful charitable institution established in Port Elizabeth, world known by international athletes. However, gentlemen, besides the rich and the famous and the wealthy, to the best of my knowledge, most of us have settled in successful, extensive careers and family lives. However, tonight, what I wish to concentrate on is one very special attribute of this class of 1981. That is the comradeship and the friendship that has lasted for over 50 years. Gentlemen, many of us started in sub A. For the younger generation, that is today defined as grade 1. Guys, that is over 50 years ago, half a century. Many of us are still in frequent, regular contact with each other. And I am in a position I could climb on a flight tomorrow and fly to all corners of the globe, as far afield as Tasmania, Canada, the USA, Switzerland, where I will be welcomed open arms, and the doors of that old Muirite Union's class's house, all doors would be open to me immediately. Today, this sadly is an attribute which is not known. I have over the years mentioned this to not only my children, but to associates and work colleagues who all look at me with the same blank stare of total disbelief. And the stare is all the same. I cannot use foul language, but my children have even told me to my face, Dad, you are talking SH. You guys can work the rest out.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Guys, how things have changed. I've taught my children over the years as well. And I had to be numerous in this presentation as well. And they still laugh when I mention this to them today. In my years at school, you were only late for school once. The next morning, you were the first man standing there. It was still pitch dark outside. And you wouldn't be sitting, you'd be standing because your ass would still be on fire. Of course, my children look at me in disbelief. But here we are, and we're still a group of today. Final tribute to our lost members, gone but never forgotten. Alan Nichols, Neil Allers, Rory Ferguson, Mark Preddy, and Wayne Brunny. Godspeed to you all and your families. Good night.
Thank you, Saki. And shall we drink a toast to the class of 1981?
Pleasure, Chairman.
Cheers, everyone.
Very marvelous.
Everyone.
Never forgotten.
Cheers, boys. Cheers, anyone.
Just do that. Hey! Hey! Mr. Ellis' spit. Remember
Cheers, everyone.
Nice, well done, well done. I can see the party once it started. The more cheers we're having here, the more raucous it's getting. I think same scenario as earlier on. I see our two Cape Town representatives are part of our meeting, Kevin van Tonda and Buchule Sitraka. Buchule, are you wanting to say a few words in 20 seconds? You hosted us in Cape Town in October last year for a get-together. Buchule, are you still with us? You want to say a few words?
No, thanks, guys. Welcome to everyone. Welcome from across the globe. I think it's quite cool that we've done this to see everyone that from all corners of the world. I think it's groundbreaking that we were able to meet like this. I think next year I'll be with the guys at definitely with you guys at Untitled for the 200. So hope to see all of you in person next year. And for those of you that are in Cape Town, please remember the golf courses are open if you guys want to have a get together. Cheers.
Perfect. Thanks, Buchule. Thank you. And thanks to you and Kevin for hosting us and about 40 guys last October in Cape Town. Thanks very much. We're now getting onto the serious side of the reunions. And if I can tell you that the next class matriculated the year that I was born, it starts getting scary. The class of 1971, celebrating their 50th reunion. And their champion has more hair than most of us that are younger than him. I'd like to invite Robert Sharman from the class of 1971, celebrating their 50th reunion, to say a few words. Thank you, Rob. Over to you.
Thank you, Andrew, and good evening, gentlemen, both those on Zoom and elsewhere. Yes, I have a little more hair, but not quite as much as Tony Kaplan in London, as some of you may have already seen on the screen. In a way, it's a pity that we're having to meet like this, not only because of COVID and because of the fact that we lose out on face-to-face meeting, but the boys at the school are not going to hear these messages. Nevertheless, we wish to share a few thoughts with you, but we've decided we're not going to regale you with any anecdotes for fear of lawsuits, and I was told that mention of eagle beak may not be entirely appropriate, so we won't go into all of that. We are the Golden Anniversary Group, and Muir College, for better or for worse, made us. Please note, by the way, that in honor of the occasion, I'm wearing my prefect's tie. Mike Rumsey is wearing his first team blazer, and I have a feeling that some of those that are watching elsewhere are likewise attired. Unlike the younger reunion groups, most of the members of the class of 71 have recently retired, so we have had cause and time for reflection, and suddenly our school days have loomed large in our minds, and there is considerable interest that has been rekindled in the school and in each other. Almost immediately after leaving school, we were dispersed across the country at various military training bases. Some of you remember those. Universities and colleges, and inevitably each of us lost contact with most of our former classmates. Nevertheless, more than 20 of us managed to assemble for our 25th reunion in 1996, together with several of our former teachers, and in preparation for our 50th, we've managed to re-establish contact with all but 8 of those who are still alive. During my recent discussions with many of my former classmates, the names of many of our former teachers and sports coaches kept cropping up, especially Charlie van Reenen and Lynette Gubb, whom some remember quite well as the late Tom Ferreira, Godfrey Stresso, Neil Hoare, Michael King, Sidney Hart, Marius Notier, and David Owen. And it's clear that many of us are still grateful to them for their influence, even if at times it was expressed at the end or brought to bear at the end of a cane. Sadly, most of our former teachers have now graduated to higher service, where they are now in company with 6 of our former classmates, namely Ben Haynes, Clive Lurie, Etienne Goos, Ian Milton, John Glastonbury, and Michael Flynn, 6 names that have been mentioned already this evening. It's been apparent that Muir had a significant impact upon all of us, and in most cases the influence was positive, but sadly not always. Numerous members of our class have succeeded in the legal, medical, pharmaceutical, engineering, architectural, quantity surveying, aviation, financial, and education professions, while others became successful businessmen, artisans, farmers, administrators, and civil servants. And one has recently become a published novelist. We didn't have vocational guidance in the 1960s and 70s, but many seeds were nevertheless sown in the classrooms of the old red brick school in Park Avenue, and various choices were consequently made that, for better or for worse, have charted our various courses over the past 50 years. But that's enough about us. Let's now take a look at the school in the old Muirite Union. Muir College occupies a special place among the schools in this region, being one of only 2 surviving boys' schools, the other being Grey High School, a much younger school located in Port Elizabeth. And the fact that both are boarding schools places them among the elite in the country. Muir's current reputation in the region is excellent, and there can be no doubt it is an extraordinary school in spite of the fluctuations in its fortunes over the past 199 years and significant changes in education and demographics since 1994. Indeed, it's clear that Muir is a prime example of successful transformation in our country, and we can be proud of that. As a group, we're pleased that many of the traditions of the school have endured. We're particularly proud that today's Muir scholars seem so well disciplined and polite, and that the uniform is still worn with pride, notwithstanding the fact that some of the boys seem to have difficulty tying their knots, knotting their ties correctly. We are, however, dismayed that the theatrical traditions of the school have entirely died, and that boarding no longer includes weekends. Many of us, yes, even the most ardent ruggerbuggers, gained enormous confidence through our experiences on the stage at Muir, and the boarders were always a significant and beneficial presence at school events, especially over weekends when most sports matches benefited from the participation of large numbers of boarders both on the field and alongside it. We therefore urge the school to try to rekindle interest in drama and in musicals, and to consider reverting to full-time boarding. I've discussed this with the headmaster from time to time, and he seems sympathetic. We believe that the school can only benefit from such changes. In conclusion, we wish the school well as it weathers the current pandemic and as it looks forward to its 3rd century. To the school and the old Muirite Union, We offer our support as they prepare for Muir 200, and I must say that I've personally been very impressed by the enthusiasm and commitment of the current Old Muirite executive. We as a group are looking forward to next year's festivities, when we hope the class of 71 will once again assemble in the flesh and be truly reunited. Thank you, and God bless you all from the class of 71, the year in which we not only thrashed St Andrews on the rugby field, but we also staged the school's first musical, Paint Your Wagon, and achieved a maths average of 67% in the matric examination, 21% above the average, setting something of a record for the school. But we were not an exceptional year. We were, after all, a typical Muir matric year. May I ask you all to toast what I believe, however, were the remarkable matrics of 1971. Thank you.
Hey, 71.
The class of 1971.
71.
71.
Yes, 71.
Yes, guys. Yes, 71. Well done. The Codgers.
71.
Right. The class celebrating their 55th reunion, the class of 1966. And we invite Ellen Giese to say a few words on behalf of the class of 1966, celebrating their 55th reunion. Thank you, Ellen.
Good evening, gentlemen. Can you see me, Andrew?
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, all right. Good evening, Andrew Binning, National President, other distinguished guests, OMU Committee, and all the union classes. And from our side, we really welcome Norman Court, John Abel, and Alwyn Diamond. But we also have Lenny Blunny sitting in Mauritius. Only his name was mentioned. He's connected tonight too. I have an issue with an initial communication you sent it about a month ago, Mr. President, that said everyone is encouraged to have a drink handy for all the toasts. Surely we should be talking in the plural. 70 minutes with a drink is a long, long time. And getting back to our school days, I grew up in Dispatch and spent the first 5 years of my school career as a son of a Lee. About 20 classes, 15, 20 classes, and 2 of them are English. One class are sub A, sub B, standard 1, standard 2. Other classes 3, 4, and 5. The teacher in each class had about 5 to 7. Standard, should I say, had about 5 to 7 people. I came first my standard every year, and the worst thing anyone said to me was, "Shut your face." The teacher called you by your name. After standard 3, I came to BI in 1960, and what a rude awakening that was. I had a male teacher, first time ever, and he called me by my surname. Come 15th to 20th out of 30 odd people. Let us not mention the language. My vocabulary expanded at a vast rate in the first 2 weeks. And your boys certainly knew how to fling a couple of words around. And having a speech impediment didn't help matters at all. My first year was tough, but somehow I got by. And then after I settled into what turned out to be 7 memorable years of Muir College. Just a little bit to digress, this first year I met Walter Weiss, who had just come up from Convent Junior. And he was experiencing the same difficulties as me. He hadn't heard these words at Convent. And the boys were a bit rough, so we soon gravitated towards each other and became soulmates. Sadly, the next year he was killed on his birthday while riding his bicycle, which had been given to him for his birthday. That was a bit of a rude awakening for us, the whole class. Let's get back to our teachers. There were 3 teachers I would put in the Legends class. Legends because of the way they interacted with the pupils. How can we forget Maudie Miller, who taught us at standard 5? He had a special way with pupils. That list I must add Godfrey Stresser and Tom Ferreira. Whenever we get together, invariably those are the 3 names I mentioned first. But Godfrey, Stress and Tom Fidel also fall in another category. That is a group who spent virtually most of their career in Mjol. James Myberg, Frankie Milan and Bob Edwards spent in excess of 100 years at the school. To that we must add Ben Lobenheim, who served for 25 years. Just Skipper started in 34, and when we left he was still in 66, but I think he had broken service. They were all legends, but in a different way. Teacher comes to mind is Weasel O'Riordan. Slightly built he was, and with his stature and demeanour, he certainly lived up to his nickname. But this was deceiving, as anybody who was alongside him will testify. Without raising his voice, he could take you down a few notches. Then we had Frank Eslaw. I'm sure he hated the piano, or so it appeared the way he used to pound the hell of the keyboard when playing in assembly. Many of us will remember how those hands used to fly up and down. And then this is not a legend, but can anyone from the early 60s remember Miss Green? I don't know why she taught at a boys' school, so I think she hated men. Certainly gave her blessing, an absolute tether and tyrant. I don't think I ever saw her smile and ever saw speak kind to anybody. School fees. I see the school fees for this year are 19,000 Rand. We had what was called a levy, which was payable quarterly. In 1966, this was 250. Many of us used to hate having to ask our father for this, as the world would do that. The magazine for that year, 1966, records there was going up to 4 Rand for the next year. That's a 37% increase, and must have caused a hell of an uproar in Utenhage. Getting back to Utenhage itself.
1 minute, Adam, 1 minute.
Utenhage had the second biggest railway workshops in Utenhage, in South Africa. And many of our parents, many of our guys, you could leave school with a standard 8 after starting a junior certificate and do apprenticeship. And you'd go to night school, and it was up to you how you progressed in life. In fact, one of the guys, Lenny Blanny, went to the railways with a standard 8, ended up with a few degrees, and now has a doctorate in one of them. Certainly showed it this to the class. We also had American and British pupils whose fathers having seconded to Goodyear or the wool companies. They lived in Utenhage, they educated their children at a local school. Very different today. Well, Port Elizabeth is a place to be. Sadly, this has affected Mjol and has affected Utenhage with all the service clubs, etc. Finally,
30 seconds to go. 30 seconds to go.
The older guys, can you remember how the day before, when the matrics packed up, they were tackled by other boys from Standard 9 and thrown fully clothed into the swimming pool. So you'd have these wrestling matches going on all over, as the matriculants would attempt to avoid being immersed. Cecil Clement, who took over the headmaster in the middle of 62, was absolutely horrified at his lawlessness. Put a stop to the future years. No doubt I've missed many things, but squeezing 7 years into 4 minutes is not easy. I may add 7 wonderful years. Looking forward to next year. Mr. President, it is now my honor to propose a toast to the class of 1966.
1966.
1966.
1966.
1966. Cheers, 66.
Cheers, 66.
66. Well done, Alan. There's not many people that I've met who are more passionate about the school than Alan. So, Alan, thank you very much for your ongoing passion for Muir College and for flying the flag high whenever you can. Much appreciated. We now reach the final class celebrating their reunion, and it's the class of 1961 celebrating their 60-year reunion. And I'm going to ask Joe McDaniel to say a few words on behalf of the class of 1961, and I think you are based in the USA, if I'm not mistaken, Joe. Over to you.
Yes, that's right. I'm in the Denver, Colorado area. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you and see you. Thank you.
I feel like I'm emerging from the mists of time. It's really interesting to see that a theme of everybody, the friendships that they formed at Muir and that have endured. And I'd like to advise the students of today that it is true that 60 years from the time you graduate, you'll still have those wonderful friends that you made at Muir. My twin brother and I went to Muir in Standard 5, straight from the USA. My dad worked for Goodyear. And the lasting memory I have of the first day at school was the fact that our uniforms were the cleanest and probably the biggest, because my mother insisted on buying them about 2 years too big, so we would grow into them. I want to mention that in the picture behind me, if you can see it, there were 35 matric Muirites that graduated that year. And all of them are in that picture, but we've lost 12 since then. I won't go through the names because I think we're short of time. 15 of them, however, have been actively looking forward to this reunion. I don't know how many are on this Zoom call, but I have to tell you that this Zoom call has saved me about 24,000 Rand in airfares. So that's the only plus I can see.
You can fly business class next year, Joe. Next year you can fly business class.
With all the money that I've saved. But I want to say 1961 was a special year, not only because 35 of us managed to get out of escape Muir, but you could go into Brockett's and buy a cricket bat for R3.50 to R6.50. Gary Player became the first non-American to win the USPGA Masters tournament. South Africa became a republic on the 31st of May that year. Construction began on the Berlin Wall. But probably most important is that Lady Diana Spencer was born that year. And everybody, of course, remembers her. Noteworthy events in our maths class. Mr. Skippers was having holding maths class, and Nubby Clark threw a brick through an open window, which landed on the floor and interrupted proceedings. The only thing that he didn't remember was that by leaving his desk empty, everybody knew who had done it. I think he was punished pretty severely for that. And the classic event from that year was that a person who should so remain unknown took the headmaster Skillicorn's VW Combi for a joyride and evidently roared past Skilly as he was coming back from the golf game. Skillicorn recognized his car but didn't know who was driving it, fortunately. And when he got back to the school, his car was still warm in the parking lot, but he never again left his keys in the car again. I've heard from a number of our old Muirites and who expressed their pride in being a member of the school. Their favorite teachers were Tom Ferreira, Godfrey Stresso, amongst others, Frankie Milan, of course, Ben Robenheimer, who was well known for his coaching skill. And I want to say a thank you to Andrew for keeping the Old Muirite Union going, because if it hadn't been for you, people like yourself, we would have lost touch. And of course, we're really thankful for social media to allow us to keep in touch. And I keep in touch with a lot of old friends from those days on Facebook. So thank you. And I propose a toast. Oh, by the way, I must mention that the Old Muirite Union dues in 1961 were R1 a year, and you could pay it by going into Hepworth's or Croft, McGill and Watson. So it took 61.
Perfect. Class of 1961. 61.
Just 61, Joe. Well done. Well done, Joe. 61 is. Well done, Joe. Thank you.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of the formal classes celebrating their special reunions. I wanted to mention to the group of you that are on the Zoom meeting and listening via live streaming that I had a very interesting phone call this morning and had the opportunity to speak to who we believe is the oldest old Muirite alive. And the gentleman is living in Johannesburg, and exactly 1 month from today, on the 4th of April, he'll be turning 100 years old. And he was in high spirits as well and asked me to pass to this gathering his best wishes. Bertie Cook is his name. And he says he's looking forward to reaching 100 and many more, and wants to be part of the celebrations next year as well. So we are billing Bertie as the oldest living old Muirite at 99 years old and 11 months exactly today.
Wow.
If you would allow me just for 2 minutes to share a few things with you. And I forgot earlier on to really introduce Wendy, and Wendy is also making history for us by being the first female full-time Old Muirite Union manager. Wendy, come around. Wendy is with me here at my home, and I'm going to ask her to show her face just so you can see Wendy.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Wendy.
Hello,
Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
So we've really progressed because, you know, all of us are volunteers, and we welcome Wendy as our full-time OMU manager. And I'm sure many of you will meet her in the months and years to come. If you'll allow me just a few minutes just to share with you, if I can work out how to share my screen. So today I've taken lots of accolades, and you know, no one minds being congratulated. But I really need to share with you just briefly, and this presentation is available. It's a 3-minute presentation, and it's also available on the OMU website. But the OMU's role is very much a collective, and we have an incredible leadership team that makes up the OMU committee. These are the names of the gents who are on the OMU committee. We also have national representatives who represent the OMU and the school in various South African cities: Cape Town, Johannesburg, PE, Grahamstown, East London, Durban. And we also have international representatives. Many of you are on this meeting tonight, representing the OMU and the school in countries like Canada, the USA, the UAE, China, New Zealand, Namibia, Germany, Australia, Indonesia, the UK, England, and Scotland. And it's our thank you today to this team of old boys who represent us throughout the world. I want to share with you a very important thing is that we have really focused our attention on updating the list of old boys who have come through the school. And there are currently around about 3,000 old Muirites who are still alive. And we are really trying to focus our attention on updating. I think us guys are not the best at keeping in contact with our alma mater or our old boys union. We do have a Lumnet as a portal that is being used to update contact details. And we're also asking any old boys who have moved, or perhaps even if you haven't moved, you want to make contact with Wendy and just clarify that she has got, and the Old Muirite Union has got all your contact information correct. And the reason for that is that we really are upping the game in terms of communication. So you will receive many emails for this event in particular. The Old Muirite Union is producing quarterly newsletters, which are also posted on the OMU website, various get-togethers in parts of the country and the world. And of course, we share the Thomas Muir Facebook page with the school, and we also have an Instagram account at Old Muirite Union. So look out for that those communication channels, plug in and hear what's going on. One exciting new project that was started last year is the Omu Business Portal. And here we have the portal on the OMU website, and we're encouraging all old boys who either have their own businesses or work for a company or consider themselves friends of Muir to register their business on this portal. And we want to encourage old boys to support each other and to support old Muirites in business. Then probably the most exciting thing to share with you this evening is the fact that the school and the old boys via the OMU have agreed to found a foundation called the Muir Foundation. And it's a joint venture between the school and the OMU. We have various directors who have been appointed. You can see them here. And the sole purpose of the Muir Foundation is to raise funds for the benefit of the school. So various projects have been identified. There's one main project I'll share with you now, but the foundation is fully fledged. It allows for 18A tax deductions if you're based in South Africa, as well as the ability to claim BBB EE points. The foundation will be audited annually, and all old boys are encouraged to give to the foundation as they can. I mentioned the first project is a very, very exciting project, and you'll hear just now in closing from my colleague at the OMU, George Yerolimo, who's been spearheading this project. But the foundation's first project is going to be the solar project, with the sole benefit of bursaries, raising bursaries for the school. So the foundation is going to rent the school roof, install solar panels, and there's going to be a class competition. Thanks, Henry. There's going to be a class competition for bragging rights to see which class can sell the most number of panels at 10,000 Rand each. And individuals can purchase the panels on behalf of their class. Classes can club together to collectively raise funds, or you can raise funds through your business. And we're going to see which class can raise the most number of panels being sold for the solar project. Just one or two graphics showing you the artist's impression of the solar project. And this project will start within the next 3 weeks. The guys will be on site to start the project. There are 461 panels available, by the way, at 10,000 Rand each. So you can do the maths as to what we're hoping to raise to plug back into bursaries at the school. And then lastly, just in closing, it's on everybody's lips, it's on everybody's minds, is Founders Week for 2022 as the school celebrates 200 years. And the school and the OMU and all stakeholders have been busy putting together a provisional program for next year. You'll see the program runs from a Tuesday to a Sunday. So I really want to encourage you to work hard this year, because next year it won't just be a weekend, it'll be a whole week. And we really are appealing to all old boys from around the world is to make it a priority. Even if you don't come back to the school for 10 years after this, I think would be the saying, if you make next year a priority, it would be the best thing that you could ever do. So from activities on the Tuesday, to a golf day on the Wednesday, to an international rugby festival on the Thursday, to the school assembly on the Friday morning, a world Guinness record attempt to have the most number of people doing a school war cry, a cocktail function with teachers, to the Saturday having the finalization of the International Rugby Festival, an NC Dugmore reunion, a gala dinner incorporating the launch of the 200-year commemorative book, which has been worked on for the last 5 years, and then ending off on the Sunday with a Remembrance Day service at the school. On purpose, I haven't put the date for 2022. As we know, March is always the date, but the OMU and the school are considering options with where we are with the pandemic. And there is a possibility that a call could be made within the next 2 months that the Founders Week actually gets pushed out to later in the year. So we just put it out there at the moment. Nothing has been decided yet, but like I say, it depends on how vaccinations go around the world, how economies recover. But there is an outside opportunity or an outside chance that the Founders Week and the 200-year celebrations may be hosted slightly later in the year. But watch out for communication on that. And then finally, just to thank Wendy, who's put this presentation together and really done a lot of hard work since she's come on board early this year. These are her contact details, oldmuiriteunion@gmail.com, and her mobile number here in South Africa. And I really encourage all of you to be in contact with her, offer your assistance wherever you can. It's been incredible to see how old boys have come forward to offer their assistance with a whole range of things. Neil, you in the UAE have been incredible from a design perspective, designing a lot of work for us, doing a lot of design work at no cost, and not charging the OMU. Really appreciate it. Many, many others as well. So keep in touch with Wendy, with myself, with committee, and we really value your input and your enthusiasm. Just before we close, we're now going to try something unique and different, because at the end of every OMU gathering, we would stand and sing the school song together. Now, I'm not sure where you are, if there is somebody else in the room with you or not. If you're on your own, you're welcome to stand up, and we're going to play the school song that was played at last year's assembly. And you can sing along if you want to, or you can mime along, but let's enjoy watching the school song as it was sung last year in the school assembly. And we're hoping that the sound and the volume is going to work well. Turn your volume up nice and loud, colleagues.
Stand and sing a song once again. Let every Lord heart now
All right, thank you, gents. Some of you came through nice and loudly and clearly. Others saved us the agony by keeping your microphones on mute. But I think it was a great experience to watch that. And I look forward to being with you next year, alongside you, as we sing that song at the 200-year celebrations. So from my side, thank you very much for being part of this session today. I'm going to invite the Vice President of the Old Muirite Union and the gentleman who is representing, he was head boy of the second best class ever at Muir College, George Gerolimo, to say a vote of thanks and to close off for us. Thank you, George.
Andrew, clearly the insecure 88 class has to say that, because they clearly feel that they come second to the 87 class, but that's fine, don't worry. Gentlemen, good evening to all of you. Big welcome to all of you from South Africa, for those that are calling in from around the world. For those in South Africa, thanks for joining us. I'm sure many of you might have forgotten the words of the school song, quickly remembered them as you went along. And I'm sure that it certainly stirred up some emotions in some of you, and also seeing the war cry being sung by the schoolboys, for those of us that were watching rugby during those days, really great time. So yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. I think at the outset, gentlemen, I think we have to say a very big thank you to our president, Andrew Binning. I think really has been a great driver of the revival of the Old Muirite Union. Yes. And while, thank you, Neil, and while he's quite humble in his acceptance of all the seriously, he's been absolutely fantastic, and it's been instrumental in making sure that we can revive the Old Muirite Union. So thank you, just on behalf of Andrew, just on behalf of all of us, a very big thank you to you, and cheers to you for everything that you've done over the years. Also to Craig, our new chairperson, our new full-time manager at the Old Muirite Union. Wendy, thank you very much for all your efforts. I know it's only been a few days that you've been with us, but certainly you've put in a fantastic effort, and we certainly look forward to everything that will come over the next few years. So thank you very much, and let's hope it's going to be many years to come still. I think also to the class reps, to Stephen, to Regan, to Glenn, to Frank, to Saki, to Robert, to Alan, to Joe, all the memories, all the reminders of what happened in those years, reminding us about some of the people, teachers. Thank you very much to all of you for making some time to actually speak to all of us. And we certainly hope that your classes have a good reunion. We trust some of you have been able to get together, and if not, certainly online. And we really hope that all these classes will be with us in 2022. I think finally, just a big thank you also to the rest of the Old Muirite Union Committee, the foundation that has been set up, the effort that's been put in currently to try and get the projects moving. I need to urge all of you, the solar panel project is a big project. We really are looking for support from all old boys in whatever form or means that you can. Try and get together if you can't buy a panel on your own. For those of you that have got the money and are able to contribute, we really look forward to you buying several panels, and as we've said, that is a Section 18A, so it is tax deductible in South Africa, but also for those of you that need it for BEE points for your companies, please use this as a tool to be able to give back to the alma mater. And for the bursaries that we're looking to put in, for those of you that don't know, for every rand that you invest over the next 20 or 25 years, we're able to generate somewhere between 7 and 8 rand back for every rand that you invest over the next 20 years. So I think it's really probably the best legacy project we could leave for the Old Muirite Union, and we really look forward to everybody's support. Finally, just to say thank you to all of you for joining us today, and we certainly hoping that you'll be able to join us next year. As soon as we've got the dates, we certainly will let you all know. But here's to all of you. Cheers for making it today, and let's just drink a toast to the Old Muirite Union and all of its members around the world. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great evening, and thank you for joining us. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes. Yes, guys.
Now the guys in the east can go back to sleep, and the guys in the west can carry on working.
And the guys in South Africa can carry on drinking.
I don't want to say it.
Exactly.
All right, so we're going to ask our colleagues to cut the live feed to the Thomas Muir Facebook page. And gentlemen, all the best. Thank you very much. See you next year in person.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Dear buddy.
Cheers, Paul.
Bye-bye.
Look at that future, you're right.
Cheers, Vince. Cheers. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Andrew. Cheers, Alan.
Hey, Linton. Cheers.
Dad.
Good night, by
Cheers, guys. Go well. Bye-bye.
I like to read wine.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Well done, Andrew.